Hello, welcome to Worship Tutorials. We hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday because today is Worship Leader Wednesday. And in this video, we're actually making this video on the heels of filming an entire module for the Worship Manual Volume 2. So we did it's got to be about an hour's worth of content on Multitracks and click tracks.
Everybody wants to know.
I know, it's a huge deal. So in this video for Worship Leader Wednesday, we're going to talk about why you, in your ministry, should be using Multitracks, the benefits that they can offer to you, and a few reasons why maybe you shouldn't, coming up.
So the number one reason to use Multitracks, and this is interesting because I've been talking to a lot of multi-track gurus lately, and they all agree, one of the main reasons we like to use Multitracks is because it enhances our sound. You know, a lot of modern worship songs have a ton of tracks, ton of audio. You know, a lot of times you'll open up a session, you'll see 5, 10, 15 keyboard tracks. Okay, so unless you have an octopus playing keyboards, or you have 5 keyboardists in your band, there's no real way to recreate that sound. And so Multitracks are a great way to take your already good, hopefully, worship experience and just add a little bit of color, maybe some loops or some sonic things that you just can't get live. So that's what a lot of people are using Multitracks for. And it allows the sound guy a little bit more flexibility to beef up some of the frequency spectrums that may be lacking from the live musicians.
Now, it's important, though, not to go overboard. And we're actually going to talk about that. This is a 2-part Worship Leader Wednesday, a 2-week Worship Leader Wednesday series. In the next video, next week, we're going to talk about common mistakes to avoid. But do not go overboard with sound reinforcement. Like, you don't want to replace your musicians with technology, right? You can supplement them, but don't replace them. We'll talk about that. But the next point of why they're great is they keep you in time. And that really doesn't have much to do with...
What is time, Brian?
The multi-track.
What do you mean when you say they keep you in time?
Tempo.
And tempo. BPM, beats per minute.
Yes, so it has nothing to do with the stems that come with the sound files that you play underneath the band, but you got to use a click track with Multitracks, right?
Yes.
And if you don't use a click track with your band, using a click track will make it instantly better, assuming your musicians can play along to it. How many times, I can remember many times starting a song about 15 BPM, too fast or too slow.
3, 4, happy birthday.
It is the weirdest. It's terrible because your whole band now is
what have I done?
And you're like 2 bars in, you're like, I've made an enormous mistake.
What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is.
Yeah, that does not sound good. And so then you have to choose. Okay, do we keep this whole train wreck
go with it for 3.5 minutes?
Yeah. Well, maybe 3 if you depends on how
that's
fast
true. You shorten the song quite a bit. Yeah.
Do you keep it going? Do we somehow try to slow down? And is the band going to stay with me? What do you do? Okay, click tracks, Multitracks. You never have that problem. You always do the song at the correct tempo.
That's right. I think one of the most professional signs, the things that distinguish the most professional bands from, not as professional is tempo.
Right.
They start songs and end songs at the same tempo. Right. And you'd be surprised how many times bands slowly speed up or slowly speed down. It's one thing to do that on purpose.
Yeah,
it's another thing to do it by accident.
That is the effect you want.
Yeah, exactly.
You can actually make a click track do that.
Yeah, you can change the tempo, but keeping that consistent tempo is really what makes a professional band sound professional.
Yeah, and the benefit then too is if you practice with Multitracks, it makes you a way better musician.
Yeah,
like you can talk about as far as guitar players go, knowing chord scales, parts, that kind of thing. People really do underestimate rhythm because I don't know that, it's so important for you as a musician to get it right, and click tracks help enable you to do that.
The other cool thing about when you're staying in time, it gives you an opportunity to sync your music with other forms of media. Videos, for example. Maybe you got a song lyric video that really follows the tempo and flow of the song. Well, now that you're playing to a metronome, you can actually start and stop that at the same time, and it stays in sync the whole time, as opposed to drifting. Maybe you have a testimony video or something you want to put in the middle of the song. You can time it out perfectly, so you know that, hey, these 4 bridges will start start the video, and then right when it ends, we'll go right into the chorus. Perfect timing. A lot of people don't think about that. It's a great opportunity when you have a multi-track or a click track. You know exactly how much time those parts of the song are going to take.
If you want to take it to the next level, our friend Jake Goslin over at Churchfront, he talks a lot about your whole service can go. You can use MIDI cues, you can trigger lighting cues, you can trigger lyrics.
You could change guitar patches.
If you wanted to. You could change your snapshots on your helix for the perfect time.
That's right.
Whether you hit the notes in time or not, it's up to you. But you can make this technology automate things, and a click track and multi-tracks can be the heart of how you do that. And the next point is, we actually talked about it earlier when we talked about metronome, but they're fantastic practice tools.
Yes.
It's like if you use multitracks.com, I've made a video on this. They have a feature called Rehearsal Mix. So I'll link below to that video about Rehearsal Mix. But basically you can go into any song, and like I'm an electric guitar player, or say you're a piano player. You can listen to just that part, and sometimes it's hard to hear these parts
buried in the mix.
In the mix. Or if you actually have the multi-track, if you're a worship leader at your church and you have the multi-track, you can just listen to that stem.
Yeah.
Right? And so you can pick out your part. So one, you can hear and learn the individual parts, but the other thing you can do is you can practice that metronome, which makes you a better musician.
And you can take that part out of the song and play with that band. So by the time you get
your part out.
Yeah, so by the time you get at rehearsal, if everyone's done that, in theory, it should sound pretty much exactly like the recording. So it's a really, really cool thing. The final thing that we love about using multi-tracks is it frees up your musicians to not have to worry necessarily about what parts of the song you're doing. A lot of us like to arrange songs differently each week.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe this week we'll do a double chorus. Maybe next week we'll do the bridge again at the end. And so as long as your musicians know the songs, the cue tracks can kind of guide them. Mm-hmm. So you can just kind of go with the flow, and you can kind of really get into the worship, really get into the performance of the music without having to worry, oh no, are we going into the bridge or the chorus? I can't remember.
Right.
Which is a really cool thing.
A lot of people might think that this closes you in, it restricts you. But actually in our experience, what happens is if you as a musician, you hear the guide, when we say guide track, basically it's in the click track, and it'll say chorus 2, 3, 4, and then you go into the chorus. It's just, you don't have to think about.
It's like a band director that never messes up.
And it's like when you go from the verse to the chorus, it is like an MD, really. When you go from a verse to a chorus, it's like, the chorus comes after the verse. What happens in worship songs, though, is you start the bridge, right? And then you're 3 times through the bridge.
Are we 3 or 4?
And then you think, how many times are we repeating this bridge? Like the last song, the last power ballad number 4 that we did before
had 4 bridges.
Had 4 bridges. I know one of these power ballads has 6 bridges. Is it this one?
And then a bar of 2.
Yeah. Is it this one or is it the next one? How are we okay, the end of the bridge. Are we going into the chorus now? Are we doing the measure of 2? Are we hanging out on this 4-chord, one
extra 4-bar build
measure? Yeah. And so with the guide track, it really takes that off your plate, because you know exactly where you're supposed to go. Mm-hmm. You think we're joking about that, and it is kind of funny, but it's funny because it's true. It's funny because it's true.
It's as Sheldon says. That's right. So, we could talk all day about all the awesome reasons to use multi-tracks, but hey, let's talk about a few reasons not to use multi-tracks.
Not for everybody.
Because let's not assume that we're saying everyone should use them, because we're not assuming that.
Yeah.
One reason to not use multi-tracks is just because everyone else is doing it.
That's a terrible reason.
That's like you would tell your kid, that's a stupid reason. If they jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge?
Yeah.
Just because multi-tracks are popular and lots of churches use them doesn't mean that it's a great fit for you and for your ministry. So don't feel bad if you don't use multi-tracks. It may be appropriate for your situation. It may not be appropriate for your situation.
Right. That comes back to vision. Like you need to have a compelling vision why you should use them. Another reason why you shouldn't use multi-tracks is if you are a church that is very spontaneous on purpose, and it's part of like the culture of who you are. That could either mean say whoever is in charge of picking songs, or maybe the pastor will come on a Sunday morning and say, I really feel like we should do this XY song.
And you're like, all right, cool.
And and that's just kind of happens all the time, and that's part of who you are. Then multi-tracks are not for you, because they take a lot of prep. Like you have to plan the set, you have to prep the set and get it all ready. It has to be in the right order. Similarly, if you rearrange songs all the time, like if you never do the same song the same way twice as far as its arrangement, multitracks, a click track would be helpful, you know, but like
metronome,
preset multitracks, it's not going to work in that environment. And that's totally fine. In some churches, like, that's part of their culture and they celebrate it and embrace it. We both come from a much more like structured background, but I know that there are lots of churches out there that don't, and that's totally fine. But multitracks are not going to be for you.
And that doesn't mean to say you can't be spontaneous with multitracks, because there's ways to do that as well, and it's great and it's awesome. What we're talking about is if your congregation and your band is a lot more improvisational. Yeah. Where they'll just on the fly change keys and on the fly go to a different song and stuff. That we're talking about the extreme ends of that spontaneity and improvisational.
Or if that's
stuff.
a direction you want to go.
Yeah.
Then I wouldn't include multitracks in that direction.
You wouldn't need them. Yeah.
I would also find really skilled musicians.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
You're gonna need them.
Yeah. A lot of times those church bands are usually an organist and a drummer.
And they're awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Right. And they follow the pastor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, multitracks ain't gonna work in that situation.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. The final reason to not use multitracks is if you need them as a crutch.
Yeah.
So you're using them because you can't recruit musicians, you know, or your musicians aren't good enough. Yeah. Because you can fall into a really deep, dark trap. Yeah. If you go down that route, because then you're just basically replacing people with a computer.
You don't want to use it to supplement your lack of leadership.
Yes.
That might sting.
Ooh, that hurt.
But it's true.
Yeah, that is so true. Because multitracks should be to enhance, not to cover up or be a band-aid for the fact that we can't recruit people. Yeah. You know, and keep in mind, your people that are sitting in your congregation watching you, if they don't feel needed, they're not going to want to get involved. That's a good point. So if every weekend is perfect and it's polished, and you never have a bass player, they're just going to assume, well, you don't need a bass player. Right. And you do need a bass player. And you do. So don't go down that road. Always use them as, like anything, any piece of technology, you use them as a tool to enhance what you're already doing. Yeah. Hey, if you want to learn more about multitracks, we will have the Worship Manual, Volume 2. And Module 1 is all about multitracks. That'll be coming out. There are tons of great resources out there online about multitracks. Go check out Loop Community, check out multitracks.com, check out Churchfront. All these people have great resources regarding multitracks, how to implement them in your ministries. They are a great tool. We hope you have enjoyed this Worship Leader Wednesday and have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday. We'll see you next week.